My precious one, stop for a moment, because what you are about to hear is not coincidence. It is not coincidence. It is a divine interruption sent on August 19th, at the exact moment your heart was preparing to give up completely. You were seconds away from closing a chapter, from walking away from someone you once believed in, someone you once prayed for, but heaven has stepped in. Archangel Michael stands at the threshold of your decision, and his voice is firm, urgent, and impossible to ignore. He says this: do not make a final decision based on what you see right now, because what you see is not the full story. There is something happening behind the veil, something your eyes cannot yet perceive. You have been watching their actions, their silence, their distance, and it has been breaking you piece by piece. You ask yourself, is this the end? You whispered in your quiet moments, should I just let go? And just as the thought settled in your spirit, heaven marked this day, August 19th, as the moment you would hear this message. Because you were not meant to walk away in ignorance. Archangel Michael reveals that the story you think is over is actually at a turning point. What looks like disconnection is not abandonment. What feels like loss is not final. There are forces moving, shifting, rearranging things in ways you cannot yet understand. And if you leave now, if you give up now, you risk stepping out of something that heaven is still actively writing. Feel this deeply. Not everything broken is meant to stay broken. There are moments in life when the silence becomes so loud, it convinces you that nothing is changing. But silence, in the spiritual realm, is often the loudest sign that something is being prepared. Something is being dismantled. Something is being rebuilt. And the person you are thinking about right now, they are in the middle of that unseen process. This is why your spirit has felt restless. This is why you couldn't find peace in your decision to let go. Because deep inside, there was a whisper you couldn't explain, resistance that didn't make logical sense. That whisper was not your confusion. It was divine interruption. Archangel Michael says, you are standing at a crossroads that will define more than just this connection. It will define your alignment with what heaven has already set into motion. You thought you were deciding their story, but heaven is reminding you, their story is not yours to end. And here is the truth that may shake you. What is about to unfold next will reveal things you never expected. Things that will change how you see them. Things that will make you realize that what looked like failure was actually a hidden transformation. So do not rush this moment. Do not let pain write the ending. Because heaven is not finished yet. Something is coming. Something real. Something undeniable. And you were chosen to hear this before it happens. Beloved soul, what you are witnessing on the surface is only a fraction of the truth. And if you continue to judge this situation by appearances alone, you will misunderstand everything that is truly happening. There is a battle surrounding that person, one that has nothing to do with what they show you outwardly. Archangel Michael reveals that their silence, their distance, even their actions that have hurt you, are not rooted in their true identity. They are symptoms of something deeper, something spiritual, something hidden. You have been asking, why are they acting like this? Why do they seem so different? And the answer is not simple, because what is influencing them cannot always be seen with human eyes. There are moments when a person goes through an internal storm so intense that they cannot express it, cannot explain it, and cannot even understand it themselves. They withdraw, they shut down, they act out of confusion rather than clarity. And to the outside world, it looks like they have changed, but in reality, they are fighting something they don't know how to overcome. Archangel Michael is showing that this person is in the middle of a spiritual conflict. Not a punishment, not a rejection, but a process. A breaking down of old patterns, old wounds, and hidden chains that have followed them for longer than you realize. You see their behavior now, but you have not seen the roots that have been growing inside them for years. Pain that was never healed, lies they believed about themselves, fears that shaped their decisions long before you entered their life. And now, those things are rising to the surface. This is why everything feels unstable. This is why they seem inconsistent, unpredictable, or even distant. Because when someone is confronted with their own internal darkness, they often don't become better immediately. They become overwhelmed. They may push away the very people who care for them. They may isolate themselves, not because they don't value you, but because they don't feel worthy, or they don't know how to face what is happening within them. You must understand this carefully. Their actions are not always a reflection of their heart. Sometimes, they are a reflection of their wounds. Archangel Michael speaks with authority here, saying that what is happening in their life right now is not random. It is a necessary confrontation, a moment where everything hidden is being brought into the light. And this kind of process is not gentle. It shakes a person. It confuses them. It can make them appear lost, even to those who know them best. But this does not mean they are gone forever. It means they are in the middle of something they do not yet have the strength to explain. And this is where your heart has been tested. Because from your side, it feels like rejection. It feels like abandonment. It feels like you are the only one holding on while they drift further away. You have questioned your worth. You have wondered if you misjudged everything. And in those moments, giving up feels like the only way to protect yourself. But Archangel Michael is asking you to see beyond the surface, to recognize that this is not a simple situation of someone choosing to walk away. This is a soul in conflict, a life in transition, a story that has entered its most difficult chapter before the breakthrough. There are chains being broken that you cannot see. There are realizations forming that have not yet reached their expression. There is a transformation taking place that is messy, uncomfortable, and incomplete. And because it is incomplete, it looks like failure. But it is not failure. It is process. And if you can hold this understanding, even for a moment, you will begin to see that what is happening is not the end of their story. It is the part where everything that was hidden begins to surface, so it can finally be healed. Archangel Michael reminds you, do not define them by this moment alone. Because this moment is not who they are, it is what they are going through. And what they are going through is not finished yet. Listen closely, because this is where everything begins to shift in a way you cannot ignore. August 19th was not just another day passing quietly in the timeline of your life. It was marked, intentionally, precisely, and divinely. Archangel Michael reveals that this date carries a spiritual imprint, a moment when something unseen was activated, something that directly involves the person you have been thinking about. You may not have noticed anything dramatic on that day. There may not have been a message, a call, or a visible sign that something had changed. But heaven does not always move in ways that are obvious to human eyes. Sometimes, the most powerful shifts happen in silence, beneath the surface, in the places where transformation begins long before it is revealed. On August 19th, a turning point was initiated in their life. This was a moment when something within them was confronted, a truth they could no longer avoid, a realization that began to break through the walls they had built around themselves. Archangel Michael shows that this was not a comfortable moment for them. In fact, it stirred something deep inside, something they may still be trying to understand even now. You must understand this clearly. Just because you did not see a change immediately does not mean nothing changed. In the spiritual realm, decisions are made before actions follow. Internal battles are fought before external behavior reflects the outcome. And what began on that day is still unfolding. There are signs, subtle but real, that heaven has not abandoned them. Have you noticed moments where they seemed almost different, even if only for a brief second? A shift in their tone, a hesitation in their distance, a glimpse of the person you once knew. These are not coincidences. These are cracks in the walls they built, small openings where light is beginning to enter. Archangel Michael is revealing that their heart is not as closed as it appears. Something is softening. Something is being stirred. And although they may not yet have the courage or clarity to express it, the process has already begun. But here is where your faith is being tested. Because the timing of heaven does not always align with your expectations. You want to see change now. You want clarity now. You want reassurance now. But what is happening within them is still fragile, still forming, still incomplete. And if you demand immediate proof, you may overlook the very signs that show progress is happening. This is why August 19th matters. It is the marker of a beginning, not an ending. It is the moment heaven stepped into their story in a deeper way. The moment something shifted that cannot be undone, even if it has not yet been fully revealed. And whether they realize it or not, they are no longer the same person they were before that day. You are witnessing the early stages of a transformation. And transformations do not announce themselves loudly at the start. They begin quietly, almost invisibly, until the moment comes when everything changes at once. Archangel Michael says, "Do not lose faith in what has already been set into motion, because what began on that day will reach its completion. What was stirred will come to the surface. What was hidden will be revealed. And when that moment arrives, you will understand why you were told to wait, why you were asked not to give up, why heaven intervened before you made your final decision." This is not the end of their story. This is the chapter where everything begins to turn. Type "I trust the divine timing" in the comments if this message is speaking to your spirit. Blessing code 918 has just been released over your situation. And as you feel this stirring in your heart, understand this. When you choose to stand in alignment with heaven's timing, you become part of something greater than yourself. The seeds of faith you hold today are not only for your life, but for countless souls who are searching for light in their darkest moments. When you sow into this mission, you are helping carry this message to those who are on the edge of giving up, just like you once were. The word declares, "Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over." This is not just a verse. It is a living promise being spoken over you right now. If your spirit is saying, "I want to be part of this work," then do not ignore that calling. Move as you are led. The links are waiting for you in the description, and the QR code is already placed before you. Step into this moment with obedience and watch how heaven responds to your act of faith. There is something you must understand now, something that may change the way you see this entire situation. You have been asking why this connection has affected you so deeply, why it has stayed in your heart even when everything around it became confusing, painful, and uncertain. You have wondered why you could not simply walk away like you have from other situations in your life. And the answer is not emotional weakness. It is not attachment. It is not coincidence. It is assignment. Archangel Michael is revealing that your presence in their life was never random. Out of all the people in the world, out of all the possible paths both of you could have taken, your lives crossed for a reason that goes far beyond what you can see on the surface. There was a divine alignment that brought you into their world, not just to experience connection, but to witness a process that is still unfolding. You were chosen to be part of their story at a time when they needed light, even if they did not recognize it. This is why your connection felt different from the beginning. There was something deeper, something unexplainable, something that pulled you in without logic. You felt it in your spirit before you could understand it with your mind. And even now, despite everything that has happened, there is still something inside you that refuses to completely let go. That is not an accident. Archangel Michael says that you carry a presence that impacts them in ways they cannot fully comprehend. Sometimes, a person does not realize the value of what they have until they are forced to confront the absence of it. And your role has not only been to bring light into their life, but also to trigger something within them, a realization, a reflection, a confrontation with parts of themselves they have long avoided. You have stirred something in them, and when something is stirred at that level, it does not always create immediate peace. Sometimes it creates discomfort. Sometimes it causes them to pull back, to question themselves, to face things they were not ready to face. And instead of moving closer, they move away, not because the connection is meaningless, but because it is too meaningful for where they are right now. This is where your heart became confused, because you felt the depth of what was there, but their actions began to contradict it. You started questioning yourself, wondering if you imagined everything, wondering if it was all one-sided. But Archangel Michael is making it clear, what you felt was real. What you experienced was not an illusion. The connection carried truth, even if it has not yet reached its full expression. You were chosen to see beyond the surface, not to carry their burden, not to lose yourself in their process, but to understand that there is more happening than what is visible. You were given insight, sensitivity, and awareness for a reason. And that reason is to recognize the difference between a situation that is truly over and one that is still being written by heaven. But here is the part that requires strength. Being chosen does not mean the path is easy. It means you will feel things more deeply. It means you will sense shifts before they happen. It means you will struggle at times between what you see and what you feel spiritually. And in those moments, you will be tested in your patience, your understanding, and your trust in what you cannot yet fully explain. Archangel Michael is not asking you to chase them. He is not asking you to ignore your own needs or remain in a place of constant pain. But he is asking you to recognize the significance of what you are witnessing, to understand that this connection holds a purpose that is not yet complete. Because if it were complete, you would feel peace in walking away. But you don't. And that is the sign. There is still something unfinished here, something unresolved, something that heaven has not yet closed. And your role, your presence, your awareness, it all plays a part in that unfolding story. You are not here by chance. You are here because you were meant to see this moment, to hear this message, and to understand that what is happening is part of something greater than what you can currently see. And as this realization settles into your spirit, one truth becomes clear. You were not chosen to give up in the middle of the story. You were chosen to understand it. There is a moment in every transformation where everything appears to fall apart, and if you do not understand what is happening, you will mistake it for the end. This is the moment you may be witnessing right now. The confusion, the distance, the emotional tension. It feels like things are getting worse, not better. And naturally, your mind begins to conclude that this must be the final chapter. But Archangel Michael is revealing something that will challenge that conclusion completely. What if this is not the end but the breaking point before the breakthrough? You see, real transformation is not gentle. It does not happen in perfect order, where everything improves step by step in a way that feels comforting. True change often begins with disruption. It begins with discomfort. It begins with a collapse of everything that was built on unstable ground. And when that collapse starts, it can look like failure from the outside. But it is not failure. It is the necessary tearing down of what can no longer remain. The person you are thinking about has reached a point where the life they were living, the patterns they were repeating, and the choices they were making can no longer continue the same way. Something has been triggered within them. Something that is forcing them to confront themselves at a deeper level. And when that confrontation happens, it shakes everything. This is why their behavior feels inconsistent. One moment they seem distant. The next moment there is a trace of something familiar. One moment they appear unaffected. The next moment there is a subtle sign of internal struggle. This is what it looks like when someone is standing at the edge of change but has not yet fully stepped into it. Archangel Michael says that breaking points are not designed to destroy a person. They are designed to awaken them. But awakening is not comfortable. It forces a person to see what they have avoided. It brings hidden wounds into the light. It challenges beliefs they have carried for years. And during this process, they may not know how to respond. They may react in ways that seem confusing or even hurtful to those around them. You must be careful not to misinterpret this phase, because if you look at it only through the lens of your own pain, you will see it as rejection. You will see it as a sign that they do not care, that they have moved on, or that what you shared meant nothing. But if you look deeper, if you listen to what Archangel Michael is revealing, you will begin to see that this is not about losing you. This is about them losing the version of themselves that can no longer remain. And that kind of loss is not easy. It creates tension. It creates confusion. It creates a period where everything feels uncertain. And in that uncertainty, they may not have the clarity to reach out, to explain, or to fix what feels broken between you. They are trying to understand themselves first. This is why patience becomes so important, even though it is one of the hardest things to hold on to. Because when you are standing outside of someone else's transformation, it can feel like you are being left behind. It can feel like you are waiting without direction, without answers, without assurance that anything will change. And in those moments, the urge to walk away becomes stronger than ever. But Archangel Michael is asking you to recognize this moment for what it truly is. This is the pressure before the release. This is the breaking before the rebuilding. This is the chaos before the clarity. And if you can hold on to that understanding, even when everything feels uncertain, you will begin to see that what looks like an ending is actually a transition. A movement from one phase into another. A shift that is necessary for something new to emerge. The breakthrough has not happened yet, but the conditions for it are forming. And the reason this feels so intense is because you are witnessing the exact moment where everything is about to change. Not in a way that is immediately visible, but in a way that is deeply real. Archangel Michael reminds you, do not measure the future based on this moment alone. Because this moment is not the final outcome. It is the turning point. And turning points are often disguised as endings before they reveal themselves as beginnings. There is a silence that speaks louder than words, and this is the silence that has been troubling your heart. You have been waiting, wondering, replaying moments in your mind, trying to understand what changed and why everything suddenly feels so distant. You expected clarity, you hoped for communication, and instead, you were met with quietness that left you questioning everything. But what if this silence is not what you think it is? Archangel Michael is revealing a truth that may be difficult to accept at first, but necessary for you to understand. Your silence is not always a sign of indifference. It is not always proof that they no longer care. Sometimes, silence is what a person chooses when they do not know how to express what is happening inside them. You must realize this. There are emotions they are carrying that they do not yet have the language to explain. There are thoughts forming within them that feel too heavy, too confusing, or too vulnerable to put into words. And instead of risking saying the wrong thing or exposing something they are not ready to face, they choose to say nothing at all. From your perspective, this feels like distance. It feels like disconnection. But from their side, it is often a form of protection. Protection from their own emotions. Protection from facing truths they are still trying to process. Protection from showing a side of themselves they are not yet ready to reveal. Archangel Michael shows that within their silence, there is conflict. They are thinking more than they are speaking. They are feeling more than they are showing. And this creates a gap, a space between what is happening inside them and what you are able to see from the outside. This is why their silence feels so painful, because it leaves you with unanswered questions. It leaves you trying to interpret what is not being said. It leaves you filling in the gaps with your own fears, your own doubts, your own insecurities. You begin to wonder if their silence means they have moved on, if it means you no longer matter, if it means the connection has lost its meaning. And slowly, that silence begins to rewrite the story in your mind. But Archangel Michael is asking you to pause before you accept that version of the story. Because silence does not always mean absence. Sometimes, it means internal struggle. There are moments when a person needs to withdraw, not to disconnect, but to confront something within themselves that cannot be resolved in the presence of others. They need space to think, to feel, to understand. And during that time, communication becomes difficult, not because they do not care, but because they are not yet clear within themselves. This does not make the silence easy to endure, but it gives it a different meaning. It shifts it from rejection to process. Archangel Michael is not asking you to ignore how this silence has made you feel. Your emotions are valid. Your confusion is real. The pain of not knowing where you stand is something that cannot be dismissed. But he is asking you to see that this silence is not as simple as it appears. There are things happening within them that have not yet reached the surface. There are realizations forming that they have not yet spoken. There are emotions they have not yet fully understood. And until those things become clear to them, they may not be able to offer clarity to you. This is where patience becomes both your challenge and your strength. Because it is easier to walk away from silence than to sit with it. It is easier to assume the worst than to trust what you cannot see. It is easier to protect yourself by closing the door than to leave it slightly open, uncertain of what may come next. But Archangel Michael is reminding you that not all silence is an ending. Some silence is preparation. Preparation for a conversation that has not yet happened. Preparation for a realization that has not yet been expressed. Preparation for a moment when everything they have been holding inside finally finds its way into the open. And when that moment comes, the silence that once confused you will begin to make sense. Until then, you are being asked to hold your understanding, to resist the urge to define this connection solely by what is missing right now. Because what is missing is not necessarily gone. It may simply be waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Your silence is not the final word. It is the space before the truth is spoken. There is something quietly unfolding right now, something that has already begun even if you cannot fully see it yet. While your heart has been focused on what feels absent, what feels uncertain, and what feels unresolved, Archangel Michael is revealing that a shift has already taken place behind the scenes. It did not wait for your understanding. It did not depend on your awareness. It began the moment heaven marked the turning point in their life. And now it is moving. You may be asking, if something has changed, why does everything still feel the same? But this is where you must look deeper than appearances. Not every shift announces itself immediately. Some movements happen beneath the surface, like roots growing in silence before anything breaks through the ground. This is what is happening now. There are thoughts forming within them that were not there before. Questions rising that they once ignored. Feelings are surfacing that they tried to suppress. Archangel Michael shows that their heart is no longer as settled in its old patterns as it once was. There is a disturbance within them, not a destructive one, but a necessary one. It is the kind of disturbance that wakes a person up. You may notice it in small ways, if you pay attention. A moment where they hesitate instead of reacting the way they used to. A brief softness in their energy that feels unfamiliar. A shift in their focus, even if it is subtle. These are not random changes. These are signs that something deeper is taking place. But here is the challenge. You are expecting a sudden transformation, while heaven is working through gradual change. And gradual change requires patience. Archangel Michael is reminding you that not every breakthrough happens in an instant. Sometimes, it builds quietly, step by step, layer by layer, until the moment arrives when everything aligns. And by the time that moment comes, the foundation has already been prepared in ways you did not even realize. This is why it is important not to lose hope during this stage. Because this stage is easy to misunderstand. It is easy to look at what is still missing instead of recognizing what is beginning to form. It is easy to focus on what has not yet happened instead of noticing the subtle signs that something is shifting. And when you focus only on what is absent, you risk overlooking the evidence that heaven is already at work. Archangel Michael says that the shift within them is not temporary. It is not a passing thought. It is not something that will fade away. It is a process that has been set into motion, and it will continue to unfold whether you see it immediately or not. The resistance they once held is weakening. The walls they built are not as strong as they used to be. And even though they may still appear distant at times, something within them is changing direction. This is the beginning of alignment. But alignment does not happen all at once. It requires time for the old to release and the new to take its place. It requires moments of reflection, moments of realization, moments where they begin to see things differently than they did before. And as those moments increase, the shift becomes stronger. You are standing in the middle of that transition. And this is why your emotions have felt so intense. Because on a spiritual level, you are sensing the movement, even if your mind cannot fully explain it. There is a tension between what you see and what you feel. And that tension is a sign that something is happening beyond the visible. Archangel Michael is asking you to trust that what has begun will continue. Because heaven does not initiate a shift only to abandon it halfway. What was started will be completed. What was stirred will come to the surface. What is changing within them will eventually reflect in their actions. But until that reflection becomes visible, you are being asked to hold your faith, to stay grounded in the understanding that this process is real, even if it is not yet fully revealed. You are not waiting for something to begin. You are witnessing something that has already begun. And as this realization settles into your heart, you will start to see that the story is moving forward, even in the moments that feel still. The shift is already in motion, and nothing that has been set into motion by heaven can remain hidden forever. There comes a moment in every divine process where the focus shifts from what is happening around you to what is happening within you. And this is that moment. Because while so much has been unfolding in their life, while changes have been quietly taking place behind the scenes, there is also something happening in your spirit that cannot be ignored. This situation is not only about their transformation, it is also about your test. Archangel Michael is making this clear. This is a test of your faith. Not the kind of faith that speaks when everything is clear and easy, but the kind of faith that remains steady when nothing makes sense. The kind of faith that holds on when there is no visible evidence. The kind of faith that refuses to give up, even when your emotions are pulling you in the opposite direction. You have reached a point where you must decide what you will believe. Will you believe what you see right now? The silence, the distance, the uncertainty? Or will you believe what has been revealed to your spirit? That something is still unfolding, that this story is not over, that heaven is still writing. This is not an easy place to stand, because your emotions are real. The disappointment you have felt, the confusion that has weighed on your heart, the moments where you questioned everything, they are not imagined. They are part of your experience. And in those moments, it feels almost impossible to hold on to hope. But this is exactly why it is called a test. Because faith is not proven in comfort. It is proven in challenge. Archangel Michael says that your reaction in this moment matters more than you realize. Not because you are being judged, but because your response determines your alignment. When you choose fear, when you allow doubt to take control, you begin to disconnect from the deeper truth that has already been revealed to you. But when you choose trust, even in the absence of clarity, you remain aligned with what heaven has already set into motion. This is where your strength is being refined. You are learning to stand without immediate answers. You are learning to trust without constant reassurance. You are learning to hold on to something that has not yet fully manifested. And this kind of faith is powerful, because it shifts you from reacting to circumstances to standing in spiritual understanding. Archangel Michael is not asking you to ignore reality. He's asking you to see beyond it, to recognize that what is visible is only one part of the story, and that there is a deeper layer that cannot always be measured by what is happening right now. This is your moment to decide. Will you let temporary emotions define a permanent decision? Or will you allow your spirit to guide you through a moment that is still unfolding? Because once you make a decision from a place of finality, it becomes difficult to reverse it. And this is why heaven intervened when it did, because you were close to making a choice based on incomplete understanding. Archangel Michael says, do not fail this test by rushing to an ending that has not yet been written. There is still more to be revealed. There is still movement taking place. There is still a process unfolding that requires time to reach its full expression. And your role right now is not to force the outcome, but to remain steady while it develops. This does not mean you ignore your own needs. It does not mean you lose yourself in waiting. It means you hold your ground with wisdom, with awareness, and with a deeper understanding of what is truly happening. Because this test is shaping you. It is teaching you patience. It is strengthening your discernment. It is refining your ability to trust what cannot yet be seen. And when this moment passes, when everything becomes clear, you will look back and realize that this was not just about them. It was about you becoming stronger, wiser, and more aligned with the truth. Type "I will not give up" now in the comments if you feel this message deep in your spirit. Blessing code 4421 is now being released over your life and your situation. And as you stand in this moment of decision, understand that your faith is not only shaping your path, it is also lighting the way for others who are struggling in silence. Every message you receive, every truth that strengthens you, becomes a seed that can reach someone else who is standing at their breaking point. The word says, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy," and this is being spoken over you right now as a living promise. If your heart is saying, "I want to be part of this mission," then step forward in obedience. Sow into this work as an act of faith, not just for yourself, but for every soul that is waiting to hear this message. The PayPal links are placed in the description, and the QR code is ready for you to respond. Do not delay what your spirit is prompting you to do. Move now, and let your giving become a prophetic act that unlocks blessings far beyond what you can see. There is a moment approaching, closer than you realize, where everything that had been hidden will begin to reveal itself. You have been standing in uncertainty, trying to understand what is real and what is not, trying to make sense of silence, distance, and emotional confusion. But Archangel Michael is now revealing something powerful. This season of not knowing is coming to an end. The truth is preparing to surface, not in a way that is forced, not in a way that feels unnatural, but in a way that will be undeniable. The kind of clarity that does not leave room for doubt. The kind of revelation that shifts everything in an instant, because it finally shows you what has been happening beneath the surface all along. You have been waiting for answers. You have been searching for signs. You have been questioning whether there is still something left in this connection, or if it has quietly faded into something that cannot be restored. And in the absence of clear direction, your mind has tried to fill in the blanks, often leading you toward conclusions that brought more pain than peace. But Archangel Michael says, do not settle for assumptions when revelation is already on its way. There are things that are about to come into the light, things they have been holding inside, things they have not yet been able to express, things that will finally give you the clarity you have been seeking. And when this moment arrives, it will not feel confusing. It will feel clear. Because divine revelation does not create more questions, it answers them. You must prepare your heart for this, because sometimes, when truth is revealed, it brings emotions with it. It may confirm what you hoped for. It may challenge what you feared. It may even surprise you in ways you did not expect. But whatever it brings, it will carry one thing you have been missing: understanding. Archangel Michael shows that this revelation is not only for them, but also for you. You will see things differently. You will understand their actions from a new perspective. You will recognize why certain things happened the way they did. And most importantly, you will be able to make your next decision from a place of clarity, not confusion. This is why it is so important that you do not rush to an ending now. Because if you close the door too soon, you may miss the very moment that was meant to give you answers. You may step away just before everything becomes clear. And that is why heaven intervened, to hold you in place long enough for this revelation to reach you. The timing is not accidental. Everything is aligning. The internal shift within them, the process that has been unfolding, the silent transformation that has been taking place, all of it is leading to this moment where truth can no longer remain hidden. And when that moment comes, it will not be subtle. It will stand out. It will speak clearly. It will make you pause and realize that what you thought would end was actually leading to this exact point. But here is something you must hold on to carefully. Revelation does not always come in the way you expect. It may come through words. It may come through actions. It may come through a sudden realization that shifts your perspective without any external explanation. But however it arrives, you will know. Because when truth is revealed by divine timing, it carries a certainty that cannot be ignored. Archangel Michael is asking you to remain open. Not to force anything, not to chase answers, but to stay in a position where you can receive what is about to be shown. Because what is coming is not confusion, it is clarity. And clarity has the power to change everything. The waiting you have endured, the questions you have carried, the emotional weight you have been holding, it has all been leading to this moment where the truth will finally come into the light. So do not lose patience now. Do not give up just before the answer arrives, because the moment of revelation is not far away. It is already on its way to you, and when it reaches you, you will understand why you were asked to wait. Here is something you must face honestly, even if it feels uncomfortable to hear. You have been standing at the edge of a decision, and for a while now, walking away has felt like the easiest option. It has felt like the only way to protect your heart from more confusion, more waiting, more emotional weight. And in many situations, walking away is the right choice. But Archangel Michael is asking you to pause and consider something deeper. What if walking away right now is not protection, but interruption? Because timing matters, and leaving something before its time does not always bring peace. It can bring unanswered questions that follow you long after the moment has passed. You may think you are closing a chapter, but in reality, you may be stepping away from a story that has not yet revealed its purpose. Archangel Michael says that if you walk away at this exact moment, you risk missing the very thing you have been waiting for. The clarity that is coming. The truth that is about to be revealed. The shift that has already begun to take place. You have endured the confusion. You have stayed through the silence. You have held on through the uncertainty. And now, just before everything begins to make sense, the temptation to leave feels stronger than ever. This is not coincidence. This is the moment where many people give up, not because the story is over, but because they cannot see what is about to happen next. You must understand this carefully. Walking away now does not erase what has been set into motion. It only removes you from witnessing it. The process within them will continue. The transformation that has begun will still unfold. The revelation that is approaching will still come. But if you have already closed the door, you may not be there to receive it. And this is where regret can begin. Not because you made a wrong decision, but because you made it too soon. Archangel Michael is not telling you that you must stay in a place that harms you. He is not asking you to ignore your own well-being or remain in constant pain. But he is asking you to recognize the difference between a situation that has truly ended and one that is still unfolding. Because this situation is still unfolding, there is movement you cannot yet see. There are answers that have not yet reached you. There are changes taking place that have not yet become visible. And when you leave before those things come to the surface, you create an ending that was never meant to happen in that way. This is why your spirit has felt uncertain about walking away. Because deep down, there is something within you that senses that this is not the right moment to close the door completely. Even if your mind tells you to move on, your spirit hesitates. And that hesitation is not weakness, it is awareness. Awareness that something is not finished. Archangel Michael says that patience in this moment will protect you more than distance. Because patience allows you to see clearly before making a final decision. Patience gives space for truth to reveal itself. Patience keeps you aligned with what is still unfolding. But walking away too soon can create a situation where you act based on incomplete understanding. And once that decision is made, it becomes difficult to return to the same place with the same openness. You must ask yourself this honestly. Do you want to walk away because the story is truly over or because the waiting has become uncomfortable? Because those are two very different reasons. And only one of them leads to peace. Archangel Michael is reminding you that endings guided by truth bring closure. But endings driven by frustration often leave questions behind. You are standing at a moment where your decision carries weight. Not just for this connection, but for your own sense of clarity moving forward. If you stay just a little longer, if you allow this process to reach its natural point of revelation, you will be able to move forward with certainty, whether that means continuing or letting go. But if you leave now, You may always wonder what would have happened if you had waited just a little longer. And that question can linger far longer than the situation itself. So do not rush. Do not let temporary discomfort make a permanent decision. Because what is about to unfold has the power to answer everything you have been questioning. And you deserve to see that answer before you decide what comes next. Here is a promise that has already been spoken over their life, and whether they are aware of it or not, that promise has not been canceled, delayed, or forgotten. What you are witnessing right now does not erase what heaven has declared. It does not undo the purpose that was placed within them. And it certainly does not mean their story has reached its final page. Archangel Michael is making this clear with authority. Heaven is not finished writing their story. You may have reached a point where you started to believe that this was it. That what you saw, the distance, the silence, the confusion, was the conclusion. You may have told yourself that nothing more could come from this, that whatever potential once existed has now faded beyond repair. But what you are seeing is not the final outcome. It is a chapter, and chapters can change. The promise over their life goes deeper than their current actions. It goes beyond their present state of confusion. It reaches into a future that has not yet been revealed. And even though they may not be aligned with that promise right now, it is still there, waiting to be fulfilled. Archangel Michael shows that there is something within them that cannot remain buried forever. A calling, a realization, a truth that hath been planted deep within their spirit. And even though they may have resisted it, avoided it, or struggled to understand it, the time is coming when it will rise to the surface. Because what is placed by heaven cannot be permanently ignored. You must understand this carefully. Their current behavior does not define their final identity. What you see now is a moment in their process, not the completion of their journey. And if you define them only by this moment, you will miss the fullness of who they are becoming. Archangel Michael is asking you to shift your perspective, not to ignore reality, but to see beyond it, to recognize that what is unfolding is part of a larger story, one that has not yet reached its conclusion. And within that story, there is a promise that is still active, still alive, still moving toward fulfillment. This is why everything feels unfinished. Because it is. There are words that have not yet been spoken. There are actions that have not yet been taken. There are realizations that have not yet been fully understood. And all of these things are part of the promise that is still unfolding. You may not know how it will happen. You may not know when it will happen. But Archangel Michael assures you that what has been set by heaven will not be left incomplete. This does not mean everything will unfold exactly as you expect. It does not mean the path will be easy or predictable. But it does mean that the story is still moving forward, and the ending has not yet been written. There is something powerful about this moment, because you are being given the opportunity to understand something that many people miss. You are being shown that not all situations can be judged by what is visible in the present. Some things require faith in what is still becoming, and this is one of those moments. Archangel Michael says, do not close your heart to a story that heaven is still unfolding, because once you close your heart completely, it becomes difficult to recognize the fulfillment when it arrives. And when that fulfillment comes, it may not look the way you once imagined, but it will carry a truth that cannot be denied. You are not being asked to control the outcome. You are not being asked to force anything into place. You are being asked to trust that what has been spoken over their life still matters, that what hath been initiated in the spiritual realm is still in motion, that what feels unfinished right now is unfinished for a reason. And as this truth settles into your spirit, something begins to shift within you as well. You move from frustration to understanding, from confusion to awareness, from doubt to a quiet sense of trust, because you begin to realize that this is not a story you were meant to end. This is a story you were meant to witness as it unfolds. And when the final pieces come together, when the promise begins to reveal itself in ways that are clear and undeniable, you will understand why you were told to wait. Because heaven never starts a story it does not intend to finish. My dear one, after everything you have felt, after all the questions that have circled your mind and the emotions that have weighed on your heart, there is something heaven wants to place within you now: peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from having every answer, but the kind that comes from knowing you are not alone in this process. Because the truth is, you were never carrying this situation by yourself. From the very beginning, even in the moments when it felt silent, when it felt uncertain, when it felt like nothing was moving, heaven was already at work. Archangel Michael has been present, guiding what you could not see, protecting what you did not understand, and aligning things in ways that are still unfolding. And now, you are being invited into a different posture. Not one of striving, not one of fear, but one of trust. You have seen how easy it is to become overwhelmed when you try to control every outcome. You have felt how heavy it becomes when you try to force clarity before it's time. But there is a release that happens when you step back and allow heaven to do what only heaven can do. You are not responsible for fixing them. You are not responsible for forcing the story to move faster. You are not responsible for creating the outcome. Your role is to remain aligned, aware, and at peace with what is being revealed to you step by step. Archangel Michael is gently reminding you that trust is not passive, it is powerful. It is a decision to believe that even when things are not fully visible, they are still being handled. It is a decision to rest in the knowing that what hath been started will be completed in the right time. And in that trust, something beautiful begins to happen within you. The anxiety starts to quiet. The pressure begins to lift. The constant need for answers starts to fade. And in its place, there is a calm assurance that you are exactly where you need to be. This does not mean everything will unfold instantly. It does not mean there will be no more moments of wondering. But it does mean you will no longer be shaken by those moments. Because your foundation has shifted. You are no longer relying on what you see. You are anchored in what you know deep within your spirit. And that knowing is this: heaven is still writing this story. Not just their story, but yours as well. Every moment of patience you have shown, every time you chose not to give up, every step you took in faith even when it felt uncertain, it has all been shaping you into someone stronger, someone wiser, someone more deeply connected to truth. This is your peace, not in controlling the outcome, but in trusting the process. Not in having all the answers, but in knowing that the answers will come at the right time. And as you stand in this place of calm understanding, Archangel Michael leaves you with one final assurance. What is meant to unfold will unfold. What is meant to be revealed will be revealed. And what is meant for you will never pass you by. So release the weight you have been carrying. Let go of the urgency to figure everything out. And allow yourself to rest in the certainty that heaven has not forgotten you, and it has not forgotten them. Everything is moving exactly as it should. Type "I trust heaven" completely in the comments if you receive this message with your whole heart. Blessing code 6399 is now being activated over your life, bringing peace, clarity, and divine alignment. And as this peace settles over you, hear this call not as a request, but as a divine invitation. When you step into obedience in moments like this, you become a vessel through which light reaches others who are still lost in darkness. The word is alive right now, speaking directly to you. Cast your bread upon the waters. for you will find it after many days. This is your moment to act. If your spirit is saying, I want to help carry this message to others who are about to give up, then do not delay. Sow into this mission through Super Thanks or through the PayPal link placed in every description and revealed through the QR code before you. As you give, you are not losing. You are releasing seed into a divine harvest that will return to you multiplied, overflowing, and undeniable. Move now, in faith, and let your action become a prophetic key that unlocks blessings not only for you, but for every soul this message will reach.